ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਹੈ, ਓਵਰਡੋਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਉਸ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਚਿਆ।
At the age of 21, he lost that fight, and I lost my son. I learned so much from Tristan, both in times of his active addiction and in his recovery. That readers who don't have these challenges will come away with a more compassionate understanding of what it's like to be so personally affected by the current drug poisoning, addiction, and mental health crises.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ 'ਚ ਖੜੇ ਆ। ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦਾ ਆਯੋਜਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਓਵਰਡੋਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਡਰੱਗ ਦੀ ਭੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਡਰੱਗ ਦੀ ਭੇਟ ਚੜ੍ਹ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਨਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਜਾਂ ਸੋਗ ਮਨਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਉਡਾਰੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤਹਿਤ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਦੁਖਦ ਰੂਪ ਦਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਰੱਗ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਹੈ, ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਹੈ, ਓਵਰਡੋਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਉਸ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਚਿਆ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ 'ਚ ਖੜੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦਾ ਆਯੋਜਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਇਹ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਸੰਗੀਤਕ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਓਵਰਡੋਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਡਰੱਗ ਦੀ ਭੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਡਰੱਗ ਦੀ ਭੇਟ ਚੜ੍ਹ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਨਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਜਾਂ ਸੋਗ ਮਨਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਰੱਖਿਆ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੁਖਦ ਤੱਥ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਨੇ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੜੇ ਖੂਬਸੂਰਤ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਖੋਲ੍ਹੇ ਨੇ। ਔਰ ਸੰਗੀਤਕ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਗੀਤਾਂ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਂਜਲੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਉੱਥੇ ਕੁਝ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਛੜੇ ਡਰੱਗ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਦੀ ਭੇਟ ਚੜ੍ਹੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀ ਸੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਬੜੇ ਦੁਖਦ ਬਿਆਨਬਾਜ਼ੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ। ਆਓ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ ਦਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
For our next song, we're going to invite you to join us on the chorus. So our group will sing the chorus for you one time, and then we'll get you to join in so you learn it the second time through. And after that, we're going to start the song from the top, and you can join in at the chorus. So this is what the chorus sounds like. Stop the harm, stop the harm. Moms be working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too. We gotta stop the harm today. Now join in with us. We're going to slow it down a little bit. Do your best. It'll come to you as we go through it too. There's some basses. 1, 2, ready, go. Stop the harm, stop the harm. Moms be working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too. We gotta stop the harm today. And from the top.
Good job, guys. All right, we'll let you know when it's your turn to come in. Children are dying, and so we cry.
working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too, we gotta stop the harm today. The demon we're fighting is the stigma that's hiding all the evidence we know points a better way. Stop the shame, blame, incarceration, decriminalize across the nation. Come on, stop the harm today. Everybody join in now. Stop the harm, stop the harm. Moms need working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too, we gotta stop the harm today. To stop all the killing, we need politicians willing to be brave. Stand up and do what's right. Change the world, yes we know. Decriminalizing is the way to go to stop the harm today. Come on now, everybody. Stop the harm, stop the harm, stop the harm. Moms be working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too, we gotta stop the harm today. One more time. Stop the harm, stop the harm, stop the harm. Moms be working to stop the harm. Fathers and brothers and sisters too, we gotta stop the harm today. We gotta stop the harm today. We gotta stop the harm
has become personal, taking away the people we love most in this world, people with endless potential. I lost my son, Tristan, to drug poisoning. He was a talented chef and martial artist. He traveled solo across Asia, and he spent a year and a half studying Kung Fu with a Shaolin monk in China. And he did all of that while living with substance use disorder. He spent the last 14 months of his life passionately embracing recovery, sharing his story when it helped others, and fighting for his life against addiction and mental health challenges. And 6 years ago, last week, at the age of 21, he lost that fight, and I lost my son. I learned so much from Tristan, both in times of his active addiction and in his recovery. But what I want to talk about today is what he taught me by example about the importance of telling our stories and allowing ourselves to be seen in a safe way in all of our imperfections. Those of us who are parents of angels who lost their lives to drug harms have very few opportunities to share our story with those who understand, because so few people understand what it's like to lose a child, let alone to circumstances laden with stigma and judgment. Few people can see our child's full and complete beauty once they know about their mental health struggles or behaviors they exhibited in addiction. When we mention the cause of death, we're often faced with mumbling condolences and a quick shift in conversation, as opposed to community support given to parents who lose a child in a car accident or other more socially acceptable death. Our grief is complicated by the shame of addiction, as was our child's life. It's a shame that never dies, it just seems to be passed on. unless we actively refuse to carry it. But how do we do that? We need to remember that shame is just a story that we're told by other people and a story that we tell ourselves. When we hear a story of shame or judgment playing out in our minds or in the world around us, we can replace that with a true story of compassion and understanding. What Tristan taught me was that when we tell our stories to sympathetic listeners, and more importantly, to people who are struggling with the same challenges that we've learned and lived and learned from, then shame can be transformed into healing and positive change. A recent survey stated that 1 in 4 people in Canada have been personally impacted by this drug poisoning crisis. That seems low to me, but think of all of the people who live in your neighborhood. At least 1 in 4 have been impacted. That's Betty down the block who lost her niece, who used to babysit for her children every week when she and her husband had date night. And that's Ram on the 3rd floor of your apartment building, who tells people that his son died of an unexpected aneurysm because he can't bear people knowing that his son used drugs. How many of our neighbors are struggling with feelings of grief and guilt and shame because they don't have a safe place to share their story or connect with others who understand? When we share our stories, we create a light for others to do the same. While we all grieve differently, there is nothing that we have done or thought in grief that is unique to us. There is just as there is nothing that our child did in addiction that was unique to them. We are all human. We all struggle. We all need help sometimes. Stories have the power to bring people together, to help others know that they are not alone in their painful thoughts or feelings, and that there is hope for a better future. Stories can rally people together around an important cause, like this drug poisoning crisis. Stories can change our world. They can be told through song or dance or drawing or sculpture. They can be told through spoken word or written. They can be told through the button or the ribbon on our shirt or the shirts themselves. Or in my case, it can be told in a book. The most important tool that I used to process my grief was writing. And I wrote about my experiences of being Tristan's mom through his addiction, recovery, relapse, and death. And I wrote about my experiences, sometimes traumatic, often painful, occasionally joyful. And as I wrote about them, the story I was holding inside of myself changed. The anger and the guilt that I'd been holding onto slipped away as I saw the main character in the story, me, trying her absolute damnedest to do all the right things under extraordinarily difficult circumstances with no roadmap and no available support. By sharing my story, my hope is that it will let other parents who struggle with their child's addiction or drug-related death know that they are not alone, that they don't need to be crippled by shame or guilt, and that there is hope, even if it looks different from anything you ever imagined. And I hope that readers who don't have these challenges will come away with a more compassionate understanding of what it's like to be so personally affected by the current drug poisoning, addiction, and mental health crises. I'm going to read a short excerpt from you, and I don't think it needs any preamble or context. I think it's pretty clear. On Tristan's 22nd birthday, 2 months after his death, my girls and I gathered at my mom's to plant a fiery red Japanese maple, under which we buried some of Tristan's ashes. I was fueled by fury. It wasn't just his death that angered me. It was the fact that people's sons and daughters continued to die in this fentanyl crisis, relentlessly, day after day after day. It was knowing that I was only one in a long line of mothers burying their children, beautiful, talented, loving children. An invisible evil had snaked its way into every corner of the country, growing fatter and fatter as it gobbled up the lives of people who used drugs and those who mourned for loved ones lost, and nobody seemed to care. I was mad because no mother should need to bury her son on his birthday. Mostly, though, I was mad so I didn't need to feel the pain waiting for me on the other side of my anger. Mom had made a gift for Tristan that birthday. Over the past year, she'd hand-knitted blankets for me and Jen and Tanis. She gave them to us on our birthdays, saying that each stitch was one hug, and that each blanket wrapped us in the warmth of 10,000 hugs from her to us. She'd been halfway through knitting Tristan's blanket when he died. When the tree was in the ground and the soil patted down, she draped his now finished blue blanket over a patio chair and said, through her sobs, that it was stitched with 5,000 hugs and 5,000 tears. We stood silently, staring at the blanket hand knitted with love and grief, and we cried. Then we set heart-shaped candles around the bottom of the tree and gazed at their tiny flames. Jen and Tanis and I had bought Tristan a birthday card in which we had written all the love that we could no longer share with him. We burned the candles and let the ashes fall to the ground beneath the newly planted tree, laughing awkwardly as the plastic-coated cards refused to burn as dramatically as they had in our imaginations. Then Mum and Jen and Tanis went inside. I stayed in the garden a while longer, looking at the tree and wondering how I would survive. I knew I would survive. I'd continue to eat and sleep and breathe. I just didn't know how I'd learn to live again in this new land of grief. It seemed more than I could manage. I thought about Tristan's radiant grin and how it overflowed into a goofy belly laugh. I inhaled his young man smell, distinctive through the veil of tobacco and Axe body wash. I tasted the love in his homemade gnocchi, prepared specially for his grandma on her birthday, and felt his solid warmth as he hugged me and said, "Love you, Mom," on his way out in the morning. I remembered Tristan's beauty, his kindness, his big heart. It occurred to me I might find clues to my survival in those memories. When I was ready, I thought I'd look for them there. I'm going to just leave you with one final thought to reflect on, and that's to pay attention to the stories you tell yourself, and about people still struggling with challenges you may never understand. And if you find yourself under the weight of shame or judgment, see what happens if you replace the story with one of curiosity and compassion. For anybody interested, Here With You is available in every bookstore. So, thank you.